Good. Okay. We'll go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you live from Albany, New York. Of course, brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. For all your needs in the automotive world, make sure you go to andymore.com and get more to your door. andymorehonda.com, that is. Also, the wealth of family restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market, which normally I am at right now and wish I were there. But I have to say I'm enjoying being here in Albany. It's a very, very cool old town. And hopefully I'll be able to go out and give you a little taste of it today during the show. I'm going to try to do some David Letterman stuff, man. But as you can see, I am right across from the MVP Arena, where not only are things taking place, but I will show you, they are getting ready. The streets have been shut down. As you can see, that armband around that meter, no parking. They've got food trucks here across from the arena, but they're setting up and getting ready. I'm coming to you from Maurice's Pearl Street Delicatessen, open right across the street. We'll have to get some information on Maurice's. My first question would be, was this formerly known as the Gangster of Love Delicatessen? But I hope everybody's having a good day and a great start and ready for some tournament action as number 4 Indiana will take on number 13 Kent State today. No, I should say tonight. And almost this morning, to be honest and truthful with you, as this game is scheduled to start at 9:55. I'm guessing 10:15. The game will get completed at probably 12:30, maybe. And let's see, 1:30. I'll probably leave the arena around 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. Yes, so almost. Thank goodness we don't have a show tomorrow. Going to have about a 24-hour day today, but. It is definitely a long one. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the guest lineup today. It's a good one, as usual. But Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com, of course, joins us. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. K-Bro is going to stop by a little later to visit us. And special guest, Dane Fife. Talk some NCAA basketball, man. As a matter of fact, he was on the last team to go to the Final Four for Indiana. We'll talk about that. I was at that game as well, but looking forward to that and getting to all your questions and comments as best we can, as Dustin is on assignment today. So I am a one-man band. John, the producer, also on assignment today as well. We've got RC manning the pill, keeping us rolling between the white lines. We appreciate it as I zip around. How about the upsets yesterday? I mean, there's not a tournament that we don't start saying that with. How long has it been since we've not said that? But are they seem to be, I don't want to say getting more frequent. Are they getting more frequent? But it's the bigger seeds. Virginia now they have the dubious distinction of being the only number 1 seed to lose an opening round game to a 16 seed, and now they've lost as a 2 seed to a 15 seed. It's kind of interesting, but we'll see how that squares out as the rest of the tournament. Day 2, who's the big upset coming today? That's the question. We'll find out. Yeah, everybody keeps talking about Indiana in this game being it's such a huge upset. Would it be a huge upset? I mean, this is a really good Kent State team. They've lost, 5 or 6 games this season. Yeah, it would be an upset seed-wise. I bet Vegas, I wonder what's the line. I'll have to look up the line on Vegas. I'm trying to get settled in on some other things here. But looking forward to this day. It's going to be a long one, but it's going to be a fun one. Did you get your brackets in? I have to acknowledge that I did not get a single bracket in. Yes, sir.
MGM has Indiana as a 4.5 point favorite, just so you know.
Perfect. I was thinking it was going to be around there. So, it's a 4-point game, people. That's not, it would be an upset if they won, but it's not expected to be a blowout. These are all tight games. If you've watched, do you have brackets, RC?
I have 2, and I actually called the Furman upset and won, so I was happy about that.
Wow.
Yeah, the other one I had Oral Roberts in the Elite Eight, so we won't talk about that. But
about
the other bracket though.
I'm trying to think if it was Mike DeCourcy this week who was kind of talking up Oral Roberts. Somebody was, I remember, and I can't remember who it was actually. But we'll have to on Monday we'll check in on the Indiana Sports Beat Radio fans brackets and see who's doing what after that wild weekend, because after the first day, you got day 2 coming, another day of massive games. There's 8 games right here at this site alone. So you've just got a plethora of games to choose from. If you can, what a day to just plop down in a chair and watch TV all day. I won't have that opportunity, but hopefully later. I will get to see the games later. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Iona Gales play, and Rick Pitino. There's just a lot going on. It's kind of like Christmas. It's that time of year. So I couldn't be happier. Any comments you want to pull up, RC? Any questions? I can't see them on the.
When's the last time IU faced Kent State and Kelvin Sampson in the same tournament?
And who?
Kelvin Sampson.
Well, that would be the same time. The last time they went to the Final Four, 2002, that I was just talking about. Well, actually, and I didn't go far enough. The last time they played Kent State, it was in the second round, and it was to go to the Final Four. But the last time they played Kent State, they went to a Final Four. And I did not put together that Kelvin Sampson was also in the same bracket until just now. I forgot about that. So good pickup on that, RC. Yeah, they would go on to play Oklahoma in the national semifinal game and beat Kelvin Sampson in Oklahoma to continue that unbelievable run. We'll talk about upsets. That team. You think that team was better than that Oklahoma team they beat, better than the Duke team that they beat, that they were down by 17 to, that had 2 NBA players on it? That's just how the cookie crumbles, man. It's wild. Sometimes it crumbles in your favor. Sometimes it does not. But looking forward to this spat of action today. This Kent State basketball team, man, they have got some guys that can shoot the ball. Those are the kind of teams that Indiana's had some problems with that are more guard-oriented. Malik Jacobs, Sincere Carey, 2 of those dudes, man. They are – Sincere Carey averages almost 18 points a game. Malik Jacobs, he's 13. So you got a nice duo out in the backcourt there. So looking forward to the games, your questions. Getting on with it. And I got to be honest with you. I cannot tell you how excited I am to not have a show tomorrow after the travel, after the late nights already, and getting started. It's I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but I'm not going to say it's been easy. The travel to Albany, though, and like I said, it's a cool old town. There's some cool old architecture here, man. But this is, I don't know how old Albany is, but I would think that it's one of those old towns. It's in New York and it's a state capital. You think back of people like the big dollar guys that all started in New York or in New York City as well, but down there. But big imprint here in this town. Very cool, like I said.
In 1683 for the year it was founded.
1683.
That's what I found. Yeah.
There we go. A little history. See, I told you. It was an old town. That's a minute, man. I mean, when did you say 16? Oh yeah, that's less than 200 years after the country was discovered. Discovered, I put in quotation marks, of course. What other nuggets of great stuff do you have for us?
It became the capital in 1790, or what was that, 1797?
Yeah.
But yeah, I went through Albany one time, and it is a nice town.
Who founded it? Don't worry about that. Who founded it?
Let me see.
He thinks that Penn State is Indiana, their 2002 run, and let me tell you, they certainly got after it yesterday. What was that final score? All right, we're on here. Want that or that? So.
It was 76-59, and whenever you're ready, it's about time to take a break.
Yeah. 70. Man, that's a good beatdown. And they're on a roll. They're a team that has just been playing well, and I think that you're right that they might. Let me mute that. And I got to mute other things as well. But looking forward to it, and I can't wait. All right, got that straightened out. Yeah, Kent State, Sincere Carey. Almost how you say that guy's name? Aaron Thomas, Chris Payton, Malik Jacobs. They got a nice squad. We talked to Michael Lewis about it yesterday. And you heard what he had to say. I talked to Rob Sinderoff yesterday as well. He was in a presser. He was asked. I asked him about facing Indiana for the first time, and didn't want to get too direct at the NCAA tournament. And then he was asked a direct question about his involvement with the cheating scandal that happened at Indiana with him and Calvin Sampson, that placed both of them on probation. And he didn't want to. He was nice about it and told them that he didn't think this was the place and the time, but he would gladly answer another time. And he spoke for probably about 10 minutes about not wasting time on him here at the NCAA tournament. I just found it a little comical that that was the longest answer he gave to any question, I think, about not wanting to waste time there, as he was wasting time there, is my point. But we're almost time for a break. Up next, Alec Lasley, right? Alec Lasley joins us from the Hoosier.com. We'll get caught up on any recruiting news for certain. And then, of course, the preview of Indiana taking on Kent State. Also today, Dane Fife is joining us. Looking forward to that. So make sure you hang around. It's going to get fun. We've got lots to get to here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from Maurice's Pearl Street Delicatessen in Albany, New York, in place of our good friends from BB's Market, which those of you in the Bloomington area, you can stop by BB's and pretend you're at Pearl Street Delicatessen today. But I'm sure they've got some awesome things going on in there for you for it's St. Patrick's Day. Not one person mentioned this. Come on. Are you serious? RC? What's going on, man? I got all this going on. I don't know what to remember St. Patrick's Day. Come on. What's that?
I said we're not even wearing green.
Well, I am. Thank you very much. It's just beside me is all. But I have green for the day and for the night as well, so I get a break. Hey, we got to bug out of here and pay some bills, and we'll be back with Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Jim, I was an idiot a month or two ago. I bought tickets to a Lakers game tonight, not even thinking about the NCAA tournament. So I'm probably going to miss the IU game tonight because I'll be watching the Lakers in Dallas.
Trying to get my earbuds connected. Hey, talk, RC. RC, are you there talking? Oh, dang it.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just not. They're not connected to my earbuds is all.
Hey, Alec. Morning. How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Not much.
Oh, man. Let's see. Yeah, I don't need them. Screw it. All right, Mr. Patagonia, what do you have? What is did you do a different setting that blurs your background?
Yeah, it's just either slightly blurred or all the way blurred. I don't know. I've just always done it slightly. I don't know.
I've never noticed it before.
You guys ready to go live here?
Sure.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday of tournament day, man. The NCAA tournament is underway, and it is underway with a bang. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joins me now. Alec, how many brackets did you have in?
I only did one this year. Every year I've slowly kind of brought it down from what it used to be in kind of high school and college to now it's only one, so I can keep track of it a lot better, and two, I don't get too caught up in every single matchup out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not have time to fill out a single bracket this year, and we have one on the show even. So that I planned on doing when I was traveling, but that didn't happen. Traveling was not as easy as we thought it was going to be, but it was not bad once we got here. It was not what I expected. They got 9-10 inches of snow right before, and you get here and it's like where we see there's snow on the sides and whatnot, but everything is cleaned off. So that is not going to be an issue. And the basketball is not going to be an issue, Alec, especially if we look at what happened yesterday. Some absolute shockers, which are always upsets, but there's just some games that are just shockers. And Princeton beating an Arizona team that we both saw play, that we both know how good they are and were. And I just shake my head and I'm like, how in the hell does an Ivy League school, well, they outsmarted them, I guess, but how does an Ivy League school beat a team that has that much talent and size?
Yeah, I think that was, the Virginia game was probably just the most shocking just based on how it ended. But from start to finish, that was very interesting considering, like you said, we saw Arizona in person. We we saw how good they were, how talented they are. Still a little bit confused how they lost that game. Obviously just struggled kind of from start to finish to really put Princeton away. And Princeton's obviously shown that they're a good team. They can beat anyone in the country when they play their best. And that's the best thing about the NCAA tournament is, it's just a one game winner go home type of matchup, and that's where you get all these upsets. And that's the best thing about this month is that that ability to get these magical runs. But I think that was probably like I said, kind of the most shocking one, just based off of the fact that I don't think really many people saw that one coming. And then you go to the then you go to the then you go to the Virginia game, and just how that finished, where Virginia was kind of comfortably controlling that one, I would say, for the majority of that second half until kind of the last minute or so. And then Kihei Clark, a senior point guard whose hands you want the ball in those types of moments, and obviously struggled to put it away. And we saw what happened with the turnover and then the made three right after that. I think that was just the most shocking turn of events, how quickly that Virginia kind of sure win turned into that loss.
And speaking of Virginia, now they have the most dubious distinction as the only number 1 seed to lose an opening round, and now they are lost as a 2 seed. Partly, I think, blame that on Virginia's style. I think that almost any game they play, they are poised to be upset by someone because they play such a low scoring game. But they allowed 68 points to Furman. I don't understand how a team that is clamped down on some of the best offenses this year, but yet they go out and I guess part of that is just playing outside of your conference for the first time in 24 games probably.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, we've seen Virginia struggle for large portions of Tony Bennett's career in the NCAA tournament, getting 2 Final Fours, obviously the one national championship a couple seasons ago. But outside of that, there just has not been a lot of consistent success. And that is style of play. You look at the Big Ten as well. What we've talked about before, and style of play is probably the biggest reason why a lot of teams lose earlier than what is predicted. And unfortunately, that's what the case is for Virginia. That's what it was again yesterday. It's unfortunate because I think they were obviously better than a first round loss. I think they could have made just depending on matchups and how things set up in that region, could have made a little bit of a run, but they really struggled kind of the back half of the season and definitely the last 2 weeks to really get in to the NCAA tournament. And obviously with that 4 seed and not a great matchup for them in Furman. A team that a lot of people thought would get that upset. It's just the manner and how that went was just, I think, the most shocking. But obviously, it was a great start between that and Maryland, West Virginia. A really fun, really good start to the tournament. And I think yesterday did not disappoint when you look at kind of from top to bottom, all the matchups and all the teams that played.
Penn State, a big win for them. As they continue, they've been just on a good roll. Not only do they beat Indiana in the Big Ten tournament, but then not only they beat Indiana, but they won games before, obviously, but they get to the championship game and they played close, man. They were close to potentially winning a Big Ten tournament title.
Yeah, and they're just a fun team, right? I mean, everything that's going on with Micah Shrewsbury kind of behind the scenes, or even I guess now in the forefront with potential move to either Georgetown, Notre Dame, anything like that. And his comments certainly didn't really help the other day either. But when you look at that team, they have veteran guard play. They have the ability to make shots, and they're a really tough and gritty defensive team. And those are 3 things that travel very well in the NCAA tournament. And that's why I think that matchup against Texas A&M was very well in their favor just going into that based off of the fact that they really checked off all the boxes. Texas A&M, really strong physical team, but just does not have the experienced, talented guard play that Penn State had, does not have the shooting ability that Penn State had, and obviously you saw that last night. But yeah, really good overall day. I think just in general from top to bottom, like I said, from kind of all of those games. Big Ten obviously did well as well. So
that was my next question. That was the next. I didn't get home back in until late, so I did not know the final tally.
Yep, obviously outside of Illinois, Northwestern had a nice gritty win over Boise State. Sets up a really interesting and intriguing matchup against UCLA, a team that looked really well, looked really good over UNC Asheville, but have some injury issues. So we'll see. Anything can obviously happen once you get into the second round. But outside of that, obviously Penn State draws Texas. We'll see what happens there. I think Texas is a really, really talented team and playing probably one of the best out of any of the teams in the country right now. So I think Texas will probably get through in that one. But from top to bottom, very, very good overall showing. I don't think a lot of people expected Iowa to move on. They really struggled in the last couple of weeks of the regular season. They're obviously losing in the first round of the Big Ten tournament as well. So I don't think people were shocked with the Big Ten wins yesterday, and I also don't think they were shocked with the Big Ten losses when you look at it from top to bottom.
Maryland you talk about a great win. Maryland beating a West Virginia team. I would, if someone let me fill, I was going to do it last night, but I still just got too tired. But I was going to go ahead and fill out a bracket how I would have filled it out. I would not have picked Maryland over West Virginia. A couple of reasons. Maryland has not hardly won a game outside of their home gym, and West Virginia has played a gritty schedule, but Maryland gets the win, man. That's a big time win for the Big Ten, especially as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially the way that they did it, falling behind, looking rather hard to watch in the early minutes of the game. Struggling to really kind of do anything on the offensive end, but defense kept them in that game for large portions and in large segments when their offense was really struggling. So that's something that they can obviously hang their hat on. But I think will be a very fun matchup. Maryland, Alabama. Obviously, Alabama, the number one overall seed in the tournament. I think most people are going to expect Alabama to move on there. I don't think Maryland has the firepower to hang with them, but really, really, really good first round game and in the way that they fought, not only for Maryland, but for Kevin Willard in what he's trying to build there in College Park.
Let's see. How funny would it, not funny, ironic, Texas, if they win the national championship with an interim coach? Or is he still the interim coach?
Yeah,
he's still the interim coach?
Yep. He's not gotten that tag.
Was Steve Fisher the interim coach at Michigan when they won the national championship?
I don't think so. I think he was the actual head coach, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay, yeah, I don't recall, but I'm like, okay, has there ever been an interim coach win a national championship? And Texas has as good a chance as anybody to do that. I mean, they are good. They're one of those Big 12 teams that kind of overtaken Kansas. Really, almost. They beat Kansas twice this year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people really kind of wrote them off in their struggles after obviously the Chris Beard situation, but they have veteran guards, they have talented guards, a lot of versatility at every single position. They play hard and they make their shots. And again, when you go back to what I was referring to with Penn State, that's exactly what you have in Texas. I think that'll be a fun matchup, but I think Texas is just too talented to lose in the second round. But again, we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Then of course the matchups not only here in Albany, but most importantly Indiana, and as they'll take on Kent State. Some cool matchups here in Albany. I'm looking forward to seeing the Iona Gales play and Rick Pitino. But of course, the nightcap. I was lamenting. I'm like, you want to talk about late games, buddy? If Bob Knight was here, he would be pitching a fit. He might throw a chair through a window. Indiana's game scheduled for 9:55 probably won't tip until 10:15, as I said earlier, and we'll conclude around 12:30. That's nuts. Having planned games, knowing that they're going to end that late.
Yeah, it makes for a long day. That's for sure, and makes for a yeah, makes for a late night. It's I always hated those games. That's the one difficult thing in the NCAA tournament, especially for teams, right? You have to sit around and kind of wait all day. Good thing is you can kind of just get a lay of the land and see what not to do, and make sure that you're ready to go out there and play for a full 40 minutes, which is what obviously Indiana needs to do and what they've struggled with. But no, from top to bottom, I think every team wants probably kind of the middle of the afternoon games where they can kind of ease into the day, watch a little bit of basketball if they're going to do that, and then get to the court and get to the arena. But yeah, those late games are, I think, pretty difficult on everyone.
We'll get to the game. We'll have one recruiting question. I'll give that up. Heath is asking if Liam McNeely is still interested in Texas since Beard is out, and everything that I've heard is he was kind of waiting for that situation to change. But if Texas were, that's a good point to bring up. If Texas wins a national championship with this guy, he's not going to have a problem with this coach.
Yeah, the biggest, obviously, the draw to Texas is the in-state pull, being originally from Texas before he went to Montverde. But the biggest thing also with Texas was that relationship with Chris Beard. Both of those kind of went hand in hand. Texas still involved per se, nowhere near as strong as what they were when Chris Beard was still there. I think he's definitely going to see what happens with that coaching search. I think we all know, what's going to end up happening, and that interim tag is going to be taken off. But that's something that is still to be determined at this point. Indiana has done a phenomenal job in that recruitment from kind of first time they reached out to him to up until now, and continue to do a great job. Indiana is probably kind of 1A. In that recruitment and sitting definitely at the top for the time being.
And then, of course, Indiana taking on Kent State today in a game that, no, of course, not an easy game. There are none here. You've seen by the upsets, Indiana's only a 4.5-point favor over this Kent State team that won the MAC. We had Michael Lewis on yesterday, head coach of Ball State, former IU player, talking about playing against Kent State. They've got a couple. Their backcourt is pretty damn tough, and those are teams that Indians have problems with. Alec, Sincere Carey, and Malik. Malik Jacobs.
Yep.
Those guys between them, they're averaging 30 points just right there. That's a lot of points to come from that spot.
Yeah, we've seen the two things that Indiana struggles with are really penetrating heavy teams, drive and kick teams, and that obviously starts with the perimeter players and defending them one-on-one and forcing baseline drives or forcing anything relative to an easy middle drive for a kick out three, and then the versatile kind of stretch four, and both of those things is what Kent State has, and we'll get more into the matchup here in the next segment, but Indiana really needs to figure out how to play one-on-one defense. We've seen them struggle. The two teams that are very good for comparison are Maryland, efficiency-wise, and then Penn State in terms of style of play. Kent State does not shoot the ball to the levels that Penn State does, but everything revolves around Sincere Carey, driving and penetrating. And then you have Miran Thomas, who is a 6'8", versatile forward who shoots about 36% from three. And that's exactly kind of what you have in both of those Maryland matchups with Donta Scott as the stretch four, and then Seth Lundy, albeit not a true four, but kind of that stretch forward that you get with Penn State. And Indiana struggled in all those matchups with both of those teams this year. granted they got the last win over Maryland, but when you go to the first one and then you go to the 2 Penn State games, dribble drive activity was very high for Penn State and Maryland, and that was one thing that really kind of broke Indiana's defense in those matchups, and that's another one that they're going to have to figure out going into tonight's matchup.
Yeah, and of course, Jalen Hood-Schifino will get the toughest defensive assignment, and we'll see how that works out for the Hoosiers. But it's going to be an exciting night, man, and an exciting day of games all day, and looking forward to it. What do you guys
absolutely.
have at Hoosier.com?
Yeah, we have a couple preview stories up from the couple pressers yesterday with the players. Obviously, Jalen Hood-Schifino talked, Trace Jackson Davis, Tamar Bates. We got some of the other freshmen as well. Obviously, with you being out there, and then Miller Kopp and Mike Woodson. So a lot of pregame stuff. We'll take a deeper dive into Kent State and some of the challenges that they will pose tonight, and then obviously full game coverage with the live thread and everything else to follow.
Make sure you go to the Hoosier.com and get all the content you can. Complete coverage of the NCAA tournament in Indiana. Alec, thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, appreciate it. We'll talk with you later.
Go in your blanket.
We'll try.
All right, Alec Lasley joining us here from the Hoosier.com, and we are coming to you from Maurice's Pearl Street Delicatessen. We are right across from the MVP Arena, as you can see, site of this regional here in Albany, or this site of the first and second rounds here in Albany, New York. Looking forward to Indiana taking on Kent State tonight. We've got more coming up. Zach Osterman is up next. Brought to you by Go Team Bites. For those of you on the go, whether it's you, your kids, the team, it's hard to find fresh, tasty food, convenient to eat on the fly. Go Team Bites contain high-quality protein powder. Tastes great, no mess, and you're ready to go. You can order them at GoTeamBites.com or pick them up at BB's Market. Well, you're picking up lots of other great stuff. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, no problem. There's vacuuming going on right outside my door, so I apologize.
I'm in a delicatessen today, so it doesn't matter. I'm across from the arena. Man, they're shutting the streets down. They got all kinds of stuff going on out there.
Really?
Let's see.
All right, guys, we can go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. And it is not just any other Friday. It's the Friday of the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins me. He was also in Albany, New York, covering Indiana as they will take on Kent State tonight. But there are a plethora of games today. We just talked with Alec Lasley and the upsets yesterday. Zach, I'm still just like, wow. We always know that they're gonna happen, but we don't expect teams like Arizona, who we both saw play and know how good they are, to lose to a team from the Ivy League. But it happens.
Yeah, I mean, even I came out of that game skeptical of Arizona long term, purely because I'm nervous about teams that look like they're bumping their ceiling that early in the year. But I won't pretend that I would have. I didn't do a bracket this year, but I won't pretend that I would have picked him to lose to Princeton.
I'm just saying.
It's one of those things, and I think it's a timely reminder for Indiana. While I don't think people would be gallopingly shocked if Indiana lost this game tonight, I know there are a number of people that are picking against them. one of the great perils of March is playing a team that can get you to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. And you saw Arizona in the last 5-6 minutes of that game. I think they only scored like 4 points in the last 8 minutes. You saw them, quite frankly, panicking a little bit and doing some things offensively that I don't think they would normally do. Taking some shots, running some things through players that, when you'd say somebody else probably needed the ball. This time of year, that pressure can become a very real thing very quickly. And Indiana's playing a team tonight that is really good at getting opponents out of what they want to do, away from what they want to do. Indiana has got to be really poised and hold really tightly to that tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Penn State team in the sense that they have a lot of guys that can roam the perimeter, that can cause damage that way or by getting to the rim. But of course, it starts with Sincere Carey, who averages 17.5 points a game, and then his running mate Malik Jacobs right there with him at 13 points a game. That's a pretty productive backcourt.
Yeah, and if you talk to people who know the MAC and know Kent State, those two guys aren't just offensively. I think they each use about 26% of possessions, but they are the guys that also set the tone defensively. And defense is obviously where this team really kind of hangs its hat. Kent State had the best defense in the MAC this year. They're a top 20 team in the country in turnover percentage. They're a top 20 team in steal rate. They're a top 30 team in block rate. They're even a top 50 team in non-steal turnover rate, which means that it's not just that they're getting deflections and steals, and if you can get them in some foul trouble, then that'll be okay. Now they do put opponents at the free throw line. They're 327th nationally in opponent free throw rate. They were 9th in the MAC in opponent free throw rate. So. And you talk about a guy like Jacobs, I think 7 times in his last 13 games, Jacobs has committed 4 or more fouls in a game. You can get them in some foul trouble, but you've got to be aggressive against that pressure. You can't back off when you see them get physical, try to get up under you. They're smaller guards. Carey is listed at 6'1". Jacobs is listed at 6'3". But you've got to really kind of return, for lack of a better term, sort of, return the blow when those guys come at you defensively, because if you let them just kind of have their way with their pressure, they will feast on it, all game long. And Indiana's got to be really tough with the ball tonight, but also just got to be willing to kind of punch back, when Kent State comes with its physicality and its pressure.
Guys like Tamar Bates, Jordan Geronimo have been just really roller coaster seasons of sort. This is the time where Indiana really needs those guys to be productive in some sort of way, whether it's offensively, defensively, both, for them to make a run. Trey Galloway's been solid, but not. You just know there's more there. If he had more confidence, I'm not sure, because he's shooting the ball at a high rate. Just as Indiana is, they're not putting the ball up much from deep, and that is kind of bitten them at times, and against teams that can shoot the 3 ball, because obviously 3 is going to beat 2 all day long. But Kent State also doesn't really have an answer for Indiana's inside play.
No, and I mean, listen, you're right about the Penn State comparison in the sense that Kent State will play a little bit smaller. They've got some guys that can move around. They've got some guys that statistically can hit some threes. It's worth saying, I think only, and I'm staring at their profile right now, they hit 10 threes against Toledo in the MAC championship game. That was the first time they'd hit double-digit threes in a game since January 3rd. Now, there's a lot of 8, 7, 8, 9 in a game in that stretch, so that they don't stop taking them, and if you look at their attempts numbers, there's a lot of 26, 25, 21, 22, 26, 21, 22, 26, 25, 24. they'll take threes, and you've got to be careful that they don't, get going. You can't panic if they make a couple, and I think sometimes we've seen Indiana. I think we saw Indiana do that against Penn State. I think Mike Woodson more or less admitted Penn State was scoring points in bunches, and Indiana let that sort of shake them a little bit too much and for too long, and it took too long to kind of recover from that and just get back to what Indiana wanted to do. It's where I go back to the idea that part of success at this time of year is poise and how well you keep it when the other team makes a run, because the other team will always make a run. It's the NCAA tournament. Everybody's good. But Kent State is not statistically the sort of team that's just going to sort of be bombs away from three. They've only had 3 games this season where they've hit more than 10 threes in a game. And so, to your point, this is not going to be a game where I think if it's going to feel like Indiana's trading 2s for 3s too often. The question will be, I think there's kind of a 2-part question. One, how does Jalen Hood-Schifino manage the way Kent State plays screens? Kent State hard hedges screens. They don't drop. They stay up in the ball handler in screen situations. And, we saw Jalen Hood. We saw Penn State throw some funky stuff at Jalen Hood-Schifino, and I think he struggled with it at times in that game in the Big Ten tournament semifinal. Then number 2, what does Kent State do with Trace Jackson Davis? Do they double him? Will they dramatically change their their sort of defensive plan, their defensive methods because of him? Everyone I talked to who knows them said no. But it was kind of conflicting. It was a little bit conflicting, kind of opinions on whether or not they would hard double or whether they'd just try to live in a world where Jackson Davis kind of, got his points and they just kept him from bringing everybody else into the offense. I think it's hard to make these comparisons. This game was played, close to 4 months ago. But when they lost by 7 at Gonzaga, Drew Timme had 29 points on 16 shots and 17 rebounds and 4 assists. So, I haven't gone back and watched the film of that game, but there's kind of a comparison for you. Another All-American big man facing Kent State. It certainly doesn't seem like reading the box score like they made a great effort to sort of just isolate him and neutralize him. It seemed like they were comfortable just kind of sticking to their plan and trying to take everybody else out of the game. And listen, they lost, but they only lost by 7. And that was, that was in the McCarthy Athletic Center in Spokane. So I think that part of the conversation around how well Trace plays tonight is based in how Kent State defends him. Part of it is also based in how well he can link up with his teammates, both them getting him the ball in post touches, in screening roll situations where we know he is so adept and so skilled. And then also, can Indiana, when you talk about getting Trace Jackson Davis involved in the offense, can Indiana feed back off of that? I go back to that Gonzaga game. Drew Timme has 4 assists in that game. That is a game very similar to what we have come to expect from Trace Jackson Davis. He has remarkably one of the best assist rates in the Big Ten in league games alone this season. Can he not just get involved, guys getting in the ball, but also him getting it back out when he's not going to shoot it and create opportunities for teammates? I think it's going to be interesting to see how Kent State defends him.
And yesterday, when Kent State took the podium, actually yesterday on the podium, there was a lot of different things. You had Nigel Pack with Miami appearing there. But when Rob Sinderoff was up, he was asked about his time at Indiana. I asked him about coming back there. It was a pretty kind of a generic question, and he gave all the niceties and things like that. But he was then asked about his involvement with Kelvin Sampson and the role that got started Indiana on their downward spiral back in the 2006-07. He didn't want to talk about it. I did find it ironic that he said he didn't want to waste time talking about himself there, but yet I think he took the most time answering that question that he did to any other question, but I don't expect he's going to receive a very welcoming welcome from probably the biggest crowd that's going to be here.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it won't have any impact on the game, probably though either.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I mean, Senderoff is always going to occupy a certain place in Indiana fans' minds. I think, obviously, his former boss probably draws a lot more of that attention ultimately. The one thing I will say for Senderoff, and this is a long time ago now, but I wrote a story when the sanctions that spun out of all the Sampson stuff expired back in 2013. And I asked at that time to talk to basically anybody involved. I tried to find Rick Greenspan. I think I couldn't find him. He'd kind of gone a little more private in his life. I asked to talk to Kelvin Sampson and was declined. I asked to talk to Tom Crean and because he was the head coach at Indiana, both when the sanctions were actually handed down and also at that time. And he, sort of politely declined to talk about it. Senderoff was the one guy that agreed to talk to me, and is, he didn't bare his soul, but he was pretty upfront about it. I mean, he said, like, I wished I shouldn't have transferred. I mean, I'm reading his quote now. I shouldn't have transferred those calls to Coach Sampson, and I wish I hadn't, and I asked him, because obviously a lot of that stuff that not necessarily the behavior, but the actual rules that were broken were soon I don't know if this is the right word, but decriminalized by the NCAA. They essentially just sort of realized that high school kids are much better arbiters of their phone and text message conversations than the NCAA is. And he said, why the NCAA changed those rules, I don't know. Should they have been rules in the first place? I don't know. That's above my pay grade. It's just like the speed limit. You're supposed to follow the speed limit. The person driving the car doesn't get to make that decision. So, to his credit, if anybody wants to afford him some, Senderoff was pretty open with me about that. But again, that was 10 years ago. And I think to his point yesterday, if you want to brook his point at all, and if you don't, that's totally up to you. That was November of 2013. And it was a time when, that sort of one-on-one conversation was more possible. I could understand why a head coach, whatever the circumstances, would not want his podium appearance the day before an NCAA tournament game to turn into something more about him than about. And I think, I think he tried to be gracious, and I don't want to I don't want to give him too much credit in the sense that he himself would tell you he made those mistakes. He committed those violations. He wasn't tricked into anything that happened at Indiana. But I just, I think I can sort of, I guess what I'm saying is I can probably sort of understand his point. But I also understand why Indiana fans would look at that and say that doesn't feel quite adequate enough, because, it's been 15 years and I think broadly speaking, everyone has moved on. But when these things come up again, I think the most valid question remains, why did you do this? Because you just really probably didn't need to.
Yeah, and truthfully, being an assistant to anybody in any position, in any job, there's probably going to be, if someone told you to, hey, you got to do this, well, I don't care if you have to speed. It's not the same, but it's kind of what I'm saying. Sometimes we look at things that we think might be benign and all right, no big deal. And I don't know if he got caught up in that situation, but when you're an assistant and you're trying to move up in that world, I would imagine that telling him no would not have gone over well for him. It's a bad deal that happened for IU, but they are coming through it hopefully and getting out of it. And today is really a continuous celebration of that, as this is the first year that they've made the tournament, flat out. We didn't have to scratch and claw like they did last year. The guys have talked a little bit about that did take something out of them, because they were scratching and clawing and playing desperate. and all the travel and whatnot. But this is a team, and especially as these upsets continue to happen, Zach, who knows what roads can open. And that's the thing about the NCAA tournament and how it can end up. Well, my God, I can't believe this team made it here. Well, this team got beat back here, and it changes the path. So, is this? And also, someone pointed out, I was at the game, the last time Indiana played Kent State in Lexington in 2002, and Indiana ended up going to the Final Four. Kelvin Sampson was also in that same bracket. And I'd forgotten about that because they would play Oklahoma in the national semifinal game. But a lot of irony. I don't know if it's going in Indiana's favor or not.
Yeah, I mean the upsets in particular, I think, can be sort of a double-edged sword, because I think on one hand, if you're a coach in the Friday games, you're happy to see a few surprises in the Thursday games that just get your team's attention. I
was thinking that very thing yesterday.
If you're Indiana, for example, you're Mike Woodson, you could say, listen, we know how good Arizona was. We played Arizona. Look what happened to Arizona. Don't let your focus slip, or this can happen. The flip side is upsets, I think, also tend to encourage more upsets. I think the more that lower seeded teams see lower seeded teams succeed, the more they think, yeah, that could be us too, and the turnabout works both ways. We all asked Sender off about scheduling, College of Charleston on the road, Houston on the road, Gonzaga on the road. And he said, yeah, it's great. It got us ready. We were in tough environments. We competed. We fought. We can draw back on those experiences now in March. But the flip side is Indiana can watch us play Gonzaga and can say, this is how good they can be. Indiana can watch us play Houston and say, don't let them sneak up on you. So, this time of year, there's always two sides to the coin. I think ultimately, again, it's really easy to get caught up in kind of the stuff that doesn't really affect you. Ultimately, Princeton beating Arizona does not affect Indiana playing Kent State. The teams that can just sort of remain locked in on both before the game and during the game on what works for them, what makes them good, what allows them to excel. Those are the teams that have the most success at this time of year. And I think that's the sort of team Indiana needs to be trying to be right now.
It's going to be a late game for Indiana as well. Talked about that. The 9:55 tip-off is probably wishful thinking. It's probably going to end up being a 10:15 tip, 12:30 finish. These games are getting later and later, Zach, and it's all to do with TV. We know that. But when's too late? I mean, seriously, finishing up a college game at this level that late?
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. If you are looking for small advantages here or there, Indiana has, to be fair, played its share of late games this season. And I mean, Indiana actually it felt like in real time to me anyway, as somebody that was whose sleep schedule was affected. It felt like Indiana played more late games than what is normal. Both in terms of games that it gave itself, like in Arizona, or games that were kind of put on its schedule, like a Big Ten game. But I'm sitting here scrolling back through Kent State's games, and I haven't found one yet that starts later than 7:30, which isn't super surprising. The smaller conferences, usually don't. Here's one. They lost to Akron. I think this was in Akron. That was a 9 p.m. game back in February. That's the first one I can find. That early February, the last time they played a game that started after 7:30 p.m. But if there is any advantage, because players don't like waiting. Nobody wants to play at 7:00 in the morning, but every player in any sport will tell you the worst game you have is when you play the last one, the latest one, because you just have to wait all day, and the wait is interminable. You have to map out all your meals and your naps and all these different things, and you'd rather just go ahead and get going. Indiana at least has a little bit more experience with that than Kent State. And again, maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. This time of year, it's the little nip and tuck advantages that always wind up having the most impact on things. But it at least won't phase Indiana, starting late, starting close to 10 o'clock. It won't. it ultimately won't really touch the Hoosiers in the same way that it might bother Kent State's rhythm a little bit, because Indiana has played a lot of those late games this year. Illinois was a late one. Arizona was a late one. I'm trying to think I think they played maybe 8 or 8:30 against Ohio State at home. They threw up a 9 o'clock Eastern game at Northwestern, a 9 o'clock Eastern game at Iowa. This team has had its share of late tip-offs, so I don't think tonight will bother them greatly. And don't tell me to make my bed. It's we don't get the free hotel concierge anymore.
Hey, I was going to tell you, go climb back in it and enjoy a little bit the game.
I think we all need to schedule out that nap somehow or another today. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, long day. Zach Osterman, I cannot thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more, brought to you by our good friends from Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. For those of you down in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott County areas, Barbara Pop has served those communities for over 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with the great Dane Fife after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Jim.
What's up, little bro?
When you look at the camera, I feel like you're looking at me.
I am.
It's
I'm
hot.
Looking right at you. I don't know if you can see my eyes, but I have eyes only for you.
I can see them. It's hot.
Too bad they're not green on this St. Patrick's Day, although James Patrick Coyle is quite Irish.
Yeah, I'm wearing some green. I'm actually in Columbus.
Oh, you are?
I'm currently serving on volunteer staff for the Spartan. No, I'm just kidding. I am with the Spartans. I'm embedded with the Spartans, but I went and saw our guy Dusty May practice. I'm going to the game tonight.
Where are they?
They're Columbus. Everybody's in Columbus. And the Boilers. Saw the Boilers a little bit yesterday.
They're in Columbus too?
Yeah, it's a good spot. Unlike Albany.
Yeah. Man, that's a great spot, man.
Yeah.
I like that embedded. I like the embedded part.
Yeah. Yeah. Telling old war stories.
Plenty of those from these times, especially.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm just sitting right across from the stadium right now. Have you been to Albany?
One time I was recruiting Isaiah Stewart.
All right, guys, we go live here in about 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday from Maurice's Pearl Street Delicatessen here in Albany, New York. Normally we would be at maybe BB's or Hank's Pizza Mac, which Hank's Pizza Mac just opened on Lower College there. You need to make sure you stop by. Easy phone number to remember, 812-330, all zeros. Please welcome aboard one of our great favorites of the show, Dane Fife. How are you, sir?
I am doing great, Jim Coyle. Happy St. Patrick's Day to a fellow Irishman.
Can you hear the music in the background? Just so perfectly, ironically, perfect timing.
Oh, is that Amazing Grace? I don't know.
I think you're right. I don't know, though. I can never tell the difference between songs played on the bagpipe.
Well, that's the Scotch.
And I do not know how to play the bagpipes. So
I would love to learn.
Well, you know, my high school was the Highlanders. So
ooh.
Pat Graham, you know, or
yeah,
buddy Pat Graham was a Highlander, and their mascot wore a kilt. We didn't like that in high school. We weren't up to the understanding the mores of society. Yeah, it was like those guys were really badasses.
They really were.
Scotsmen,
They really were.
They'll say, "Call me a woman in a skill, I'll kill you."
That was before Mel Gibson and Braveheart when you were in high school. Probably right about when maybe you were in college.
Exactly.
Where he made kilts kind of tough.
And I thought about it. I thought about wearing sporty one around the IU campus, but thought better of it.
No, I think that's a good call.
Yeah,
I think Pat
I
Graham would have looked great in a kilt.
Pat Graham would definitely have looked good in a kilt. That would have been a really good look, especially if he was in one of his walking boots, which
one
he
of those
spent too much time in.
Yeah.
But speaking of
walking boots,
walking boots, I've been wearing some walking boots, doing some walking. I am here in Albany, New York, at the site here. You actually are in Columbus at the site over there, which feeds the East Regional, where Purdue is the #1 seed. But you've got some cool teams in there. Dusty May and FAU, after his awesome season, we had him on. I can't believe it was once or twice, but we'll have him on again. But so happy. I mean, what a run he had this year, man. That was kind of out of nowhere.
Well, to be honest with you, I think for most people, it probably was out of nowhere. Dusty felt like he had a really good team coming back. A lot of veterans. He was able to keep some of his guys that maybe were looking at the portal. But Dusty May, he has a squad. This was no shock probably to his Conference USA. They beat the brakes off of UAB in the Conference USA Championship. And I watched Dusty's team back in probably January play UAB and in Boca Raton, at home. And they played, it was a tight game throughout. And after the game, I said to Dusty, I said, the difference between your team and UAB's team is Dusty's team has a much higher ceiling. As good as they were, they had a ton of room to get better, where I don't see UAB getting much better. And I guess my prophecy rang true, because look what they did to them in the conference tournament. They just blistered. And I know we're not necessarily here to talk about Florida Atlantic, but
no,
Dusty
we're talking
May
about everything, man. I love talking about Dusty.
Dusty's he's a hero of Greene County.
That's exactly, and that's one of the reasons why, man. They love him, and he's gonna just become he's gonna be the Michael Lewis of Jasper. But Michael has to share that title with Scott Rowland, though. See,
right? Yeah. Well, it's the thing about the problem tonight is that the Florida Atlantic Owls play exactly pretty much at the same time as your Indiana Hoosiers. So, many Hoosier fans might have to split their TV screen.
Well, I'll be
checking
it.
The Hoosiers will be winning.
Tweeting out updates.
Not a baby.
Got to take care of our man Dusty. And well, here's the thing, and you working in this world know quite well. Dusty's going to be a hot name in Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say if they don't make it to Houston, I don't want to put that on Dusty. But if it is, he's going to be a hot name there.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the time when you get hot. It's usually the time you got to go and take advantage of it, because that's when you hit the big hit.
Mm-hmm. The thing about him is, I think for him right now, I think family's first, and
he loves
as much
Florida.
as he does, and as much as anything's enticing, he's not going to do it at the expense of jeopardizing home. Mama's got to be happy, the kids got to be happy. It's got to be a good move. So I don't think he's not the kind of guy that's just going to jump at, say, $3 or $4 million, guaranteed for 6 years, which sounds odd to you and I. Heck, I'm just looking for a job right now, but I think Dusty's in a really good spot down in Boca Raton, and he will be sought after. I mean, he probably already is being sought after.
And talk about that, the pressure of, you have to balance. Hi, Jim. Rick Bozich just stepped in to the house.
Not very nice of Rick not to say hi to me. I mean, Rick and I've known Rick longer than you have, pal.
Oh, don't worry. I'll yell him. Rick Bozich, Rick. Well, I'll tell him that he can't hear. He's not listening. But the pressure that you have to balance between taking that bigger job or staying where you are, where there's probably a lot less pressure because you're already beloved.
I'd agree with that. There probably will be pressure, and then there'll probably be what ifs. But I think, again, Dusty has a really good perspective on what he wants out of this. And he's been able to maintain great perspective throughout, where happiness, family life, allows him the freedom.
Not happy that you haven't said hi to him. He's on right now. It's live radio. Well, you can just stop by on your way out and say hi to him.
Tell Rick I said to zip it.
Zip it, Rick. There you go.
Yep, zip it. I think Dusty just, again, he's got great perspective, and he's a guy that's took the route of has gone through the whole process to get to this point where he is a head coach, and so Dusty, I don't think he's going to jump at just anything. Like I said, I think he's a guy that he's betting on himself, and he believes in himself, and he believes wherever he's at, as long as he's got the right framework built around him, he's going to be in good shape.
Kevin Brockway joins us now as well, formerly on the IU beat with CNHI Papers, now down in Gainesville covering the Gators, and they got nothing. You're done. You got nothing to do. It's over for you. But
that was a rough one. I'll tell you what, though, this kid, Taylor Hendricks from UCF, if you watch him, projected first round pick. I mean, he's got a terrific game. I mean, he's just really took over that game in the first half, really set the tone. I mean, he's 6'9", 210 forward, kind of a hidden gem there. But the people in the NBA circles know him, and don't be surprised to hear his name called, because he was really smooth game and really kind of plays within himself too. For a guy of his ability, was really impressed watching him on the floor that game. And
was talking about Dusty May, but and another thing,
really took that game.
I sent out a tweet a while back, and it was not nearly complete. After I sent it out, I realized it was not even nearly complete. I was just trying to think of all the current Indiana-born basketball coaches and the seasons that they're having. I even added the women in there. Terry Morin, of course, the coach at Purdue, is both men's coaches are from. Then you've got Michael at Ball State. There's the Drews now. I forgot about them. You got Dusty May, and I did not realize Micah Shrewsbury was born in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and grew up in Indianapolis. So you can add him to the list. That's another. You want to talk about a hot name? Talk about the job, because you know how tough this Big Ten conference is, and you probably know how tough the job at Penn State is. How hard is it to do what Micah Shrewsbury is doing at Penn State?
Well, I think Micah has a really good idea of what he thinks he can win with, and having coached with Purdue, coached with Brad Stevens, he's been a head coach before at a couple different spots. And really what Mike has done is he's been able to keep their players that were holdovers from the previous staff. And I think it's well documented. He's gosh.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Rick, they don't get to see my face this morning. It's just not looking great.
I thought you were going to say hi to Dane.
I did say hi, Dane. I said hi, Kevin. Hi, Dane. We're double parked outside Albany, and I don't have any connections here, so I don't want to get in trouble. But
just act like you're a food truck.
I'll go back to the room and listen. Bye, guys. Enjoy the tournament. Hey, I had Arizona win it all, but don't spread it around.
Yeah,
I had them in my Final Four too, Rick. It's
I did too. As did I. Thank you, sir. The great Rick Bozich joining us here for a little cameo appearance. As he joins us each and every Wednesday here on the program, and very fortunate to have him, Hall of Famer, U.S. writer, Basketball Association writer. But Dane, what were we talking about? I forget.
I was just talking about Mike and how he's got the oldest team in the country. and that helps. But let's not discount the fact that he can flat out coach basketball. And he is, as you said, he's another guy that's going to be he's going to be sought after quite a bit. I know it probably is right now. I'm sure Kevin probably knows a little bit as well. Kevin, huh?
Yeah, and Dane, last night they were talking about just how hard he is to prepare as a coach. What makes that offense so difficult?
Oh, that's a question for me. Yeah, look, yeah. I think well, the booty ball part of it makes it hard. The back down into the Pickett.
I've never heard that. That's awesome.
that's what they've been calling it. Brad Underwood was complaining about it the other day, just how hard it is. The NBA kind of has a rule against the booty ball, but that's taken on a national reputation since the Big Ten tournament, and it does. When you've got someone that can do what Jalen Pickett can do, that can take the ball from the 3-point line and back you all the way down to underneath the basket, either shoot it or make an easy pass out for a three. That's exactly what you want. I mean, that's drive and kick on steroids, and it makes it difficult for the other team to get in a rhythm. Penn State takes their time, and yet they're still 3-point reliant. But I think a big part of what makes Penn State hard to prepare for is just what do you do when Jalen Pickett decides to take the ball at the 3-point line and back you all the way down underneath the rim. And then Micah's got different ways he can move guys around. But ultimately, you take the game last night where they got a player that hits, 8 for 10 from 3. And there's just, it's so hard to guard, and you can't zone. I mean, what do? You double. Okay. Well, Pickett's a really effective passer. So you got a guy like Funk that just comes in, the Funk man, and comes in and hits 8 for 10 threes. There's just not much. You just kind of throw your hands up.
Hey, we got to take just a real quick break, Dane. I want to come back and talk about Indiana and Kent State. Your good friend Michael Lewis, coach. Michael was on with us yesterday. Of course, he had a hell of a season. We'll talk about him as well,
did.
And much more. But we're coming to you, of course, from Maurice's Pearl Street Delicatessen in Albany, New York, site of. And I ordered a sandwich, by the way. But it's not like New York. So I didn't get the Reuben or anything like that. But I will before it's all said and done.
You got to get it's St. Patrick's Day. You got to get the corned beef or something,
Gosh, I'll wait till later. Man. I got to get my day started. I'm Irish enough. I'll get my Irish on later. But it won't be tonight after the game. That's for daggone sure. But we're right back. Brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company. Our friend Dr. Hops right there. The great Dane Fife is with us. And, hey, bro, back right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore.
Oh, man, you lucky son of a bitch.
My groomsman. I had a groomsman.
Lucky son of a bitch.
I had a groomsman. I was a groomsman at a wedding, and I'm a big Jets fan. So he got me this custom jersey that had K-Bro on the back.
I thought John gave you that name.
No, I've had that name for a long time, since I was in my 30s,
But I will say this, Dane, you will enjoy this if I can find this. Oh, and I will put it up.
Oh, my K-Bro thing?
Yeah. Where that is, I don't know.
I was the one that told John that I had the K-Bro nickname, and that kind of, took on a life of its own.
He's claiming it now?
Yes. Yeah.
That's horseshit.
Oh, my goodness. How embarrassing is that?
Yeah, it's not cool.
You don't like that one, Dane? You don't like that?
What? Whoa. Let me see. I'm oh, gosh.
He's trying to make me out to be some rap star, which I'm not. So
you look like it there.
John did a good job with that.
Yeah, that's nice. That fits perfect. The hat might be a little small.
Yeah,
but that's okay. That's his style. That's K-Bro's style.
That's my style. I'm styling and profiling.
Ooh.
Oh
good.
man, it's just what a bummer. It would have been nice to be in Albany with you there, Jim. But I sacrificed the beat for the weather, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tournament Friday. NCAA tournament underway already, starting yesterday, and all the sites. Actually, it started Tuesday, if you really want to count that. But a great day of first round upsets. The great Dane Fife is with us, good friend of the show, and K-Bro, also a great friend of the show, with us today. Dane, yesterday, what was a bigger surprise to you, Virginia's loss or Arizona's loss?
I was like Rick Bozich, and I'm not sure where K-Bro had Arizona going, but I had Arizona beating Alabama going to the Final Four.
Me too.
And
Me too.
I just felt like at some point, the pressure, just the external pressure on Alabama, they're going to crack. And you saw where, Brandon Miller went. I think he went over yesterday, but Alabama still manages to score almost 100 points, which speaks to how talented and good they are. And I had a chance to see Alabama, but I'd say that the Arizona loss, they've been pretty good all year, and that was a shocker.
Yeah. Plus, it comes to a Princeton team who runs a system. But still, just the size and the talent that Arizona has. Because I saw them play in Las Vegas, and I'm like, my God.
They didn't get the ball the big guy at the end of the game. That was, to me, the most perplexing thing, because he was the physically dominant player on the court, right? A second team All-American, and they didn't get the ball to him. And that was just that's perplexing to me. I was really impressed with what what Penn State did last night, because Texas A&M was coming in pretty hot.
Yes, they were, bro.
And had made a run to the SEC tournament finals. But we always make this mistake, and I always do it in my brackets, is you think the momentum from the conference tournaments carry over. I mean, Arizona won the Pac-12 tournament, right? And it never works out. I think it goes back to some of the Florida teams I covered in 06 and 07, where they dominated the SEC tournament. They went on to win the national championship. But so many times we see these teams, and I don't know if what it says about conference tournaments, or if they're too long, or if teams get beat up or burned out. But hey, maybe this might be a blessing for Indiana too. Get out of there early and get an extra day or two of rest and be ready for this weekend.
Well, and Dane, this really reminds me of 2002, and it's even extra special that you're on today. That run to the Final Four, it's the last time Indiana played Kent State, and not only that, Kelvin Sampson was in their bracket.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of piggyback off what Kevin was talking about. Still, with Kevin, did you find it interesting that Princeton outscored Arizona in the paint? Points in the paint was 42-34, and I just, as you said, I was surprised. It just looked like Arizona was so confused. It just looked like, let's give it to the guard and just let him throw something up. At no point was there an attempt. And Tommy Lloyd is a great basketball coach, but I thought that was a great point you made. Just at what were they doing? You got those two monsters inside.
Some of those shots down the stretch were just perplexing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Jim Coyle, who we all know couldn't guard me, was actually guarding me and locking me down. That's what it looked like. But
is this the Dan Dockage on Michael Jordan?
You know what? I have similar visions of that. Yeah. So
nothing against Dan or Michael, either one.
No.
Just one of the examples thrown out quite often when we talk about NCAA tournament games. And I'd have shut you down, man. I'd have shut you down.
I don't think so.
I
just don't see it.
You don't understand. I cheat.
So do I.
I grab your shorts. I mean, I'm going to trip you. I'm going to Grayson Allen you.
Jim, I'll grab a lot more than your shorts, pal.
Yeah, but you're not guarding me, man.
And I have. No, I pay back.
I will switch off.
I
will switch off every time.
Yeah.
I'm no dummy.
Yeah. So you brought up the last time Kent State played Indiana, and that was 2002. And obviously I was in the program. I was part of the family, as one might say.
We're always part of family, bro.
Yeah. So what's funny is if anybody and those that were around back then paying attention, we lost the year before in an upset in the first round to Kent State, and there was just no way we were losing that game. I mean, we had just beaten Duke, and I think Duke, most people might think, was the pinnacle of that year, but I think I think the bigger game for me was Kent State, just because, and maybe for a lot of us, those that were on the team the previous year, because, and most of us were, just because it was revenge, and we were surprised that Kent beat Pittsburgh, but we were also excited to have the opportunity to play them again. And Antonio Gates, who is kind of a forgotten figure, at least in my mind, on that team. And I grew up playing against it. I played against Antonio Gates in basketball in high school and knocked me out of my state tournament my senior year. But the big matchup for me was just Trevor Huffman, who's still cocky, just arrogant, cocky, and he's a great competitor.
You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
No. But I think it was a game that we just absolutely were not losing. And Tom Coverdale on 1 foot, didn't matter. We showed up to play, and we showed up to pop Kent State, and that's exactly what we did.
I was there, man. Lexington's Rupp Arena. Very, very unique to see Indiana beat Duke in Rupp Arena.
Yeah, I bet.
How cool of an experience was that for you? I mean, that'd be much cooler for you than it was for me, let me tell you.
Well, I was like the rest of Indiana Nation, and when we were down 17 and thought, good God, let's just try to keep it in single digits. But I think ultimately we Jared Odell came out in the second half, and it's like, I thought to myself, my gosh, Jared Odell scoring on Carlos Boozer. Okay, we've got a little bit of a shot. And Jared Jeffrey started dominating. Tom Coverdale finally got going. And then the other thing, you go back to like Rocky. You remember Rocky IV, where the Russians started cheering for Rocky. All of a sudden, I started noticing like all the blue or
Kentucky fans.
Yeah.
There were Kentucky fans sitting behind me cheering for Duke, and I remember I go, so let me ask you this: you're a Kentucky fan, and you're cheering for Indiana. He's like, oh, I hate Duke. I go, I understand. But I don't care if you were playing Russia. I wouldn't cheer for you or Kentucky. I said, I don't care who Kentucky play. They could play a team owned by the devil, coached by Saddam Hussein. And I'm that's my team.
Don't forget that was 10 years removed from Leitner, though. I mean, that was,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they hated
it. Yeah, the whole arenas, except for the a small section. It seemed like a small section. They were kind of hiding the Duke people. The whole arena was cheering for us, and that was the thing that I really started to notice.
And that's going to be something I'm looking forward to see how it is here all season. It has been that way. Out in the game against Arizona out in Las Vegas was just utterly shocking. you're an hour away from Arizona, the state, but yet it was an 80-20 fan differential for Indiana, which was shocking. Then at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, when they played Kansas, everyone I talked to said that they have never seen that many opposing fans get their way into that building. So expecting another good traveling contingent from Indiana, which, that's important, especially in the NCAA tournament, because how is playing in these NCAA tournament games different from the regular season? Because the first team you play is someone you probably either never played and definitely didn't play this year.
Well, the one that, when you take a young player, by and large, when you're on the road, if you're a young player on the road, you've never experienced that type of, when the momentum starts going against you, you've never experienced something like that. I don't care, AAU, high school basketball, wherever, national prep basketball, it doesn't matter. When you're on the road and the momentum starts going against you, it's just something that you never experienced and you have no idea how to stop it. So when you get in the NCAA tournament, you couple the when momentum going against you, couple that with the one and done, the feel of a one and done, where, oh God, the pressure of a one and done scenario, losing you're out. It legitimately can become, for a lot of young players, it can become just the phenomenon, just simply giving up because you just have no answer. And I felt that. I felt that when I played. I know other players have talked about it. It's just something that typically you're going to win. You're going to win in the regular season with more experienced guys, and you're certainly going to win in the NCAA tournament, losing your out scenario a lot more often than with young players.
Jim, and I would think too, with the way the session worked out, I mean, it couldn't have worked out better from Indiana from that standpoint, because, being down here and knowing Miami and Jim Larinaga has done a great job with that program, but college basketball here just does not get the support. And I'm guessing that there'll probably be only a handful of Miami fans there. Then you've got two smaller schools in Kent State and Drake. I mean, I'm guessing that arena is going to be pretty much red for that session tonight.
Yeah, I would think so. And that should benefit Indiana, hopefully, because you speak of youth. Indiana's point guard, Jalen Jafino, he's a freshman, but he's not your average freshman. But you've got major contributors like Malik Renew, who is very special, but he's definitely showed his freshman moments this year with the turnovers and the silly fouls. But man, he's a really good player. But both of those guys are young still, even though JHS is above, kind of ahead of everyone else. But he's going to draw the defensive assignment too. He's not. He'll get the best defender from Kent State without question. There was one question that's wanted to pop up here. I didn't want it to slip by in regards to that game back in 2002. Someone asked, didn't Dane Fife foul Jay Williams shooting a three? And I always thought it was just alleged that it was a bad call, Dane. And that's where I'm sticking to this day. He just flopped. That was like one of the original flops.
Absolutely. And Jay Williams, the guy that drew the foul against me, he admitted it. He came out. He's on record saying he flopped. And
oh, really? I did not know.
Yeah.
I was just coming to your defense with nothing to back it up.
Just a sec. I'm in here. No, sir. No service. No NPR. Thank you. Okay. Hey, I always like to point out, and Jared Jeffries at some point is probably going to confront me on this, but my whole thing is this: like, I fouled him. He made the three. Fine. Okay. We're still up a point. All right. Jay Williams has a free throw. He shoots the free throw and misses. He missed all year quite a few free throws.
Yeah, he didn't miss on purpose. He just missed that free throw because that would have tied the game.
I just think Jared Jeffries is getting off the hook. He's getting let off the hook so bad
because he gave up that rebound.
The lame box out that he attempted on, it wasn't even an attempt. I think JJ's getting off the hook, getting let off the hook so bad, and I feel like I'm the fall guy.
They got a shot off, man.
He gave Boozer a pot shot, and it was so easy. I just think he's getting let off the hook, and I think
he's getting let off the hook because you won.
Yeah, I think we've got to start a campaign and point that out, like Jared Jeffries.
But I saw it recently, and I agree with you. But I've never really thought about it like that because so much thought is on the free throw and all that. And then there's that scrum, but I'm like, yeah, they damn near lost that game. They gave up the rebound, man, and they have a shot.
I was doing what I was supposed to do, challenging a shot.
Hey, I'm with you, man. And
Jared
you came
Jeffries,
from the side. You came from the side, not the front.
I was doing what I was trained to do. Jared Jeffries was not doing what he was trained to do, to block out. That's one of the first things you learn as a basketball player, to block out. I went to my training. I defaulted to my training. Jared Jeffries.
Who would Bob Knight blame that on?
Me, of course. And look, I take responsibility for getting too close, but what can Jared Jeffries take responsibility for?
Well, you're not going to allow a wide open three that'll tie or win a game. I'm not blaming you, and we're just messing, having fun.
Yeah. Hey, mine's about ego. Like, I'm not allowed to. I was responsible for Jay whatever he scored that night. I wasn't about to give him 3 more points. I wanted him to have. Who's hot stuff behind you there, Jim?
Hey, buddy, how you doing? see who's that? I can't tell what the hat is.
That's Jerry from Newcastle. It looks like Jerry from New.
I don't think he knows either. I don't think he knows either.
I flipped you off, Jim.
Well, daggone, I'm used to that.
Yeah, I was going to say you're probably used to that.
That happens all the time. But that was
procedure.
A great run, and then going to the Final Four like when you guys got to go, and not only go to the Final Four, but geez, you guys you had talent, but do you really think that was a Final Four team?
Not on paper, and not with the eye test either. I mean, we had Jeffries, and then we had 4 other guys around him that looked like as Izzo might call us, the beer truck drivers, and that's no offense to the beer truck driver, but
that's the greatest analogy I think I've ever heard with that.
Thank you.
That rag. I don't want to call them a ragtag group because they all had their own talents, but it was. Yeah. I mean, this was not a team that had Duke's talent. This is not a team that had Kentucky's talent that year, but they had moxie. Everyone on that team was skilled at what they did, played as a team, played within themselves, and were very disciplined.
Well, we had a really good group of guys, and then we had I don't think our coaching staff gets enough credit, but you had Coach Davis and Treelor, and say what you want about him, but they were sticklers to the Coach Knight principles defensively. They tweaked our offense, but I can't necessarily blame them for that. I mean, they did what they were comfortable with, and it worked. I mean, it sure worked. And you had a guy in Coach Davis that he was a really good leader in terms of how he dealt. He allowed his staff to do things. He was loyal to his staff. He loved his staff, and you really appreciated that as a player. And he was, he's a guy that really truly loved Indiana, and still does. And so I think it really, there was 2 things going on. We wanted to win for ourselves. We wanted to win for that team, but we also, to me, at least in my opinion, I wanted to win it for Coach Knight too. And that was important to me because I wanted to, he was a guy that I came to play for, and he was a guy that I dreamed of playing for. And so I wanted to, make sure that his name stayed at the forefront at all points during those seasons that we played without him, and recognized that a lot of us were there, and even this coaching staff, they were maintaining, at least trying to maintain, the same principles that Coach Knight had instilled in all of us and in Indiana basketball. And so I wanted to make him proud and let him know that, look, we're still with you, man. And so we were able to do that to an extent. Unfortunately, we couldn't win the national championship, but a lot of Coach Knight's principles drove us to that point. And then again, I still don't think Coach Davis and his staff get enough credit, because that was a key component. And Coach Davis maintained the loyalty and the love for Indiana, and that was instilled in me, and that's why I still feel the same about Indiana, despite what went on there for me. And so we that was a pivotal moment for at least my life as it related to Indiana basketball.
And that team being held together, though, because you guys were on the verge of collapse, and it was the coaches were able to keep you guys together, and the team kept each other together. Did that actually bond you guys more so than before? And that is a big reason of why you were able to get to the Final Four in 2002?
That's a good question, Jim. I think so. I think that we try as young. We were young, man. We were immature, but and we at least publicly tried to create the perception that we were just torn to shreds, and but we'd come on camera and do these interviews, and we'd go out and be college kids. So as traumatic as maybe it seemed, it wasn't all that bad. We survived, but I do think, again, a lot of us came to play for Coach Knight, and a lot of us were trying, and including Coach Davis, who was hired by Coach Knight, that we wanted to maintain what he built there and let him know that he played a major role in our lives, and he still did. All the way to the national championship game. And so I think we all had that in common, and we all, we played for a lot of things, but one of the main things we were driven by was our love and appreciation for Coach Knight.
Yeah, that seems to be a constant with a lot of guys that have carried their teachings. Charlie Miller, I do a lot with. It's so funny because I've done so much with so many of you guys that I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of all the 4 is the mental, whatever. However, I got to. What is it? 4 is the mental to 1 is the physical.
Something like that. Yeah, mental is the physical, as 4 is to 1. Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of his. All the smart, just the way he actually taught. I mean, he taught a class basically, in essence.
Oh yeah, he did teach a class.
Do you have? Well, I know, but do you still have your notebooks?
Oh yeah, I can't find one, but I only have 2, and I can't find one. But Kyle Hornsby and I, from time to time, get together and we rehash old stories. And he was he had the locker right next to me, and so he can vouch for many of the stories that I have. And Kirk Hastings Kirk Hastings was like word for word everything he said. So Kirk and I and Kyle, we'll have to get together someday and
Kirk
compare
is
some
the funniest storyteller of the group. I think not that it's just maybe it's his Tennessee accent is part of it.
I was thinking that,
and he always plays this all shucks dude. But when he's a really smart guy, he's a state representative down in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, he's Representative Haston.
Yeah, I call him Governor Haston. I've called him that for 4 years, and it used to bother him, but it doesn't seem to bother him anymore. And I'm like, no, he's getting a little used to that. I think he's liking it. But
I think old Kirk is we need Kirk in the leadership role. That'd be good for us and the country, maybe.
That's no joke. He's a funny guy. One year I did a Derby themed show. I was down doing the show from the Derby. This has probably been 4 years ago. Coach Bill Mallory was still with us because he's a big horseman, but I had lined up about a dozen Indiana type guys, people like yourself, and I was just going to call them and we're going to say, hey, all right, I need your Derby pick. And boy, they'd give it and boom, boom, we'd say a few things and get off. And I get to Kirk and he goes, hey, can I name my own horse? And I'm like, okay, sure. And he comes up with this name, Hoof Hearted. And this was not planned in any way, so I cannot believe that it went off so well. But I asked him, I said, well, Kirk, how would a race with Hoof Hearted go? And he goes, well, it would go something like this here. And he just jumps right in to calling this horse race, made up horse race, all the way around, like he's doing it all the way around the track. And the next time you're on, I'll have it scheduled to play because it's kind of funny. But for it to be Kirk Haston doing this, it's nuts. If I had John on with us today, he could pull it up really quick. But yeah, just imagine Hoof-hearted and then start acting like you're saying that in a quick sequence and hoof-hearted, hoof-hearted, hoof-hearted. It was,
oh man,
this is Kirk Haston. I'm like, I was dumbfounded and laughing, and he's like, who squeezed it? who something dealt it, whatever. He's called just, and I'm like, this is, it just was mind boggling, but that shows the great personality swings and what personalities you guys had on that team too. I mean, Jeff Leach, George, or
you can
George
combine
Leach
them.
and
Jeff Leach.
Newton.
I like,
Jeff Leach and George Newton.
One of the funniest. I didn't speak because when I decided that I was coming back after I announced I was transferring after Coach Knight was fired, Kirk Haston was one of the guys that, hey man, we need you. I'm like, okay, I'll come back. Well, Kirk ended up going pro the following year, and I decided to boycott Kirk for 4 months because I'm like, Kirk, I came back and you left. You're the one that talked me into coming back. So I decided to boycott him for 4 months. I lifted the boycott when I needed a ride somewhere, but
that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. But I boycotted him. But I got to get going, fellas.
We'll let you go. Do you think you guys could have won a national title if Kirk stayed?
That's a funny question.
Which that can never be predicted because of the way these things go. But my God, can you think of that?
I do think we could have. I just, it's so hard with dynamics.
Yeah, everything changes.
Dynamics, but tell you, when you threw that ball into Kirk's big butt, you knew it was going in, and that gave you comfort. If you could just get the ball in there, Kirk was going to put it in, and he really good shot blocker. I think it's possible. I think
Indiana, Kent State.
Hey, look, I'm going with the Hoosiers. I've got the Hoosiers going up against Texas, and I just think Texas, what they did to Kansas in the Big 12 tournament,
they're tough.
It showed me. Now I agree with Kevin. It doesn't really, you shouldn't look at necessarily what happens in the conference tournament. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament, the way they're going to play. But it showed me the kind of talent, what Texas can do to teams, Bill Self or no Bill Self, and that's why I think Texas has the edge over Indiana. But I think Indiana is going to win by 10 against Kent State. I don't know how they stopped Trace Jackson Davis. They haven't stopped many. Drew Timme, I think, had like 27 and 17 rebounds against him. Now that was in the preseason, but they haven't seen anything like Trace Jackson Davis. And what's going to hit them is Trace is he's just playing some brilliant basketball right now.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll get the opportunity. If Indiana wins, we'll get a chance to talk to Dane again next week. Are you going to go on to you're in Columbus this weekend? Are you going to go to another round next weekend?
Hey, look, if somebody will pay my travel.
Are you staying embedded, I guess I should say?
I may stay embedded with Sparty. If Sparty can make it happen, I'll stay with them. If they lose, I'm going to have to latch on to somebody else.
I was going to say you're going to have to embed somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm hoping the FAU Owls can make it happen too.
You can always embed with Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Hey, if you're paying travel, I'm in.
We'll have to negotiate that. Buddy, I cannot thank you enough. I know you got to get going, so we'll let you do that. I hope you have a great day and a great rest of your weekend. I appreciate you so much. You're an awesome, great friend of the show, brother.
Thanks, Jim. Kevin, thanks, my man.
Dean, great to see you, man.
Yeah, see you guys.
The great Dane Fife joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. As this is the NCAA Tournament Edition. K-Bro is with me. We're just going to keep on going. And just a shout out to RC. We'll end 3 minutes early, and then you could splice in the cut-ins. So, but that was a fun conversation. But of course, Dane always is, man. He's just a good guy, and I love how he's able to just continue to roll with the punches.
Yeah. And, just, wealth of knowledge of basketball. You always learn a lot talking to him. I always did, my years covering Indiana. So really, really great guy. Now, what's the deal with the big guy from Miami, Norchad Omier? Did you hear anything or no up there?
Man, that's your school. You're supposed to be telling me.
Yeah, well, apparently
you're the Florida guy. You're my Florida.
I know. Well, but you're there. But
I'm in Albany.
That's where he is right now.
I know, but they're keeping all that stuff under wraps.
That they are. Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting, But, Dean was talking about Texas and Kansas. I mean, they both looked very impressive yesterday. They both won by 20. They didn't have any scares or any problems. And I think it just shows again that the Big 12 is going to be a bear. Actually, I did this rundown of conference results last night. SEC 5-2, Big 10 3-2, and ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12 2-1 so far. They have more games coming today. So
the SEC had a good day.
Yeah, they had a good day, and I mean,
that has to be most of their teams. How many teams do they even get in?
They've got 8, but I mean, Kentucky's the only one that's playing tomorrow. I think you'll see more Big 10 and Big 12 today.
Kentucky plays today, right?
Just wait. Oh, by the way, 3 certainties in life, right? Death, taxes, and Fran McCaffrey getting knocked out the first week of the NCAA tournament.
Never made a Sweet 16 in his career.
Yeah.
Never. How long has he been coaching?
20, 30 years. Yeah, that was something in Auburn. But that was like a de facto home game for Auburn. They're in, Birmingham, basically.
And I'll tell you something else.
Houston looks shaky
is a center point.
Yep.
If you take Fran McCaffrey and Steve Alford combined, Fran's never made a Sweet 16. And in 30 years of coaching, Steve Alford has made about 5 or 6, averages one about every 5 years. But that's the ceiling, just getting to a Sweet 16. And that hasn't happened for probably 5 years.
Yeah, I was there the last time he may have made a Sweet 16. That was at Florida UCLA Sweet 16 in Memphis when Florida beat him. And he had a pretty loaded team, too. He had Kyle Anderson, who went on to the NBA, and Jordan Adams. I mean, he had a pretty good team, but Florida was number 1 most of that year. So that showed up as well.
Let's see. What I want to mention, got my nice little breakfast sandwich here from Maurice's Pearl Street Delicatessen.
How are you enjoying Albany? What did you do last night? Anything interesting? It's about an hour and a half from where I grew up in Suffern, New York.
Dude, I've not had a minute to do jack. Last night I had my first meal in 2 days. I had during the day yesterday, I had a snack bar. Once I finally got to the media room, I didn't get to eat the night before. And what else? I had something quick to go. And then last night, finally, around 9. But one of the coolest, wasn't it me and you that stopped in that the church that used to be that used to be a church, and now they do craft beers in Peoria, maybe on the way to Iowa, huh?
No, I don't think we did that together.
Well, I think we did. You just don't remember. It was on the way to Iowa.
Okay.
But anyway, there's a place here called daggone it, forget the name of it. But it was such a cool building. I took some pictures. I can pull it up. Should have sent those out last night. Daggone, man, I can't ever find anything quickly when I need it. Oh yeah, here we go. City Beer Hall.
Okay.
No, you won't be able to see these pictures because they're on my phone, but
oh, very nice. Yeah, it looks like a fire station, like an old firehouse.
Well, actually, kind of like that, but it was actually looks more like an old. I think it was the old city hall.
Or the old city hall, yeah.
Because here's the front door that you get way up close to.
Did you see Rick Pitino at all yesterday in the press conference?
I did not.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I hate that. I wish, man, I really wish.
That's one of my upset picks today. I have Iona over UConn.
Hey, I like it. I would. He might be. Well, I'm not going to say the last team I'd want to play here because there are some good teams here.
Yeah.
But he's the last of the lower seed teams that I would not want to go against. He's the best. I'll say it again. He's the best active coach in college basketball, and he will be until he leaves the game.
Well, there are a lot of rumblings about St. John's or Texas Tech or wherever he's going to.
Well, St. John's makes perfect sense for him. That's that's him.
Wouldn't have to move. Yeah.
That's just his milieu too. The Boston, New York area. I mean,
yeah.
So
but, he went to Kentucky too. He can adapt anywhere. He's just that kind of a. Here's an interesting note from Dick Hoops Weiss, by the way. Mitch Henderson from Princeton, Kevin Willard of Maryland, and Darren Horn of Northern Kentucky all went to the same middle school in Lexington, Kentucky, Tate's Creek.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Brownsburg High School has produced a lot of talent.
A lot of coaches.
A lot of talent. No, more Gordon Hayward, some other guys. Well, how about Jasper High School? Michael Lewis.
Yep.
Hall of Famer Scott Rowland.
Have you had Scott Rowland on your show yet?
No, I haven't. I've seen it. I talked to him pretty frequently. I'm waiting. Yeah. Just kind of waiting till the season's over and letting all his stuff settle down, man. He's a super great individual, humble, and
does a lot for the community too. Apparently,
dude, he has. It's called E5. His E5 club that I just learned about that I'm going to hopefully do some stuff with. Volunteer. I was looking at this comment here from Heath that says Rick Pitino isn't going to Texas Tech. Joan would not like Lubbock. Exactly.
Yeah, she hated Lexington. Okay.
Yeah. Lubbock is a desert town, man.
It's an outpost. Yeah. Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
I went there once in college for to cover a Miami Texas Tech game back in the day.
I don't know that Rick Pitino would go there to coach in a game against Texas Tech. But any other jobs that fit him or
Georgetown? People are talking about Georgetown, but Mike.
I've heard Georgetown's not going to be interested in him.
Micah Shrewsbury, that could be Georgetown.
Talking about that earlier and talking about that last night. Micah Shrewsbury
he's writing his ticket,
but he's also the hottest, not hot name, it seems right now. I don't know. He should be. I would love. He would be a great coach at any school. Indiana guy, born in Jeffersonville, Indiana, went to high school up in Indianapolis at Cathedral.
Notre Dame, Micah Shrewsbury.
And a good coach. Dude,
very good coach.
You cannot win at Penn State. They've made the national champion NCAA tournament 2 times in their school's history. They've been to as many NCAA tournaments as Purdue has been to Final Fours in their school's history, too.
Well, I said there was some graphic. They made the Final Four in 1953, 54, or something like that. That was their last Final Four, Penn State's last Final Four.
Well, Penn State couldn't have been to the Final Four. They've only made the tournament twice, and that was
no. They made it more than that. No, this was their first tournament win since 2002. Yeah.
Okay, maybe 17 was their first tournament win since the 50s. Then, get that confused, but yeah, not a team that you find. But that place, you cannot recruit to Penn State, not for basketball. It's in the middle of nowhere if you've never gone. And when I say the middle of nowhere, I mean you literally have to be dropped in by the U.S. Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Hey, it looks like we're over. So we're going to have to cut it. We'll have to. RC may have to add some overtime to this.
That's a nice. We would call it that backdrop. You're like right in front of the arena and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had planned on maybe going out and doing some David Letterman walking around stuff, but you know what? I think I'll just do some recording of that and use it for the show on Monday or something.
Splice it in.
Well, buddy, I cannot appreciate you coming on and filling in for Mr. Shetty. But we need to get you on a little more frequently. It's always fun to have you back on, especially now that your responsibilities have slackened a little bit.
Yeah, my schedule. Well, we got spring football now, and people go nuts about that. But and Gator baseball is pretty good. They're 5 in the country. They had a kid last night threw a 1-hit shutout. Sproat, who's pretty good. But I will be. I'll be around here and there. Just reach out to me, and hopefully I can make it.
We'll appreciate you, brother, very much so. And
enjoy the game tonight. Yeah, should be great. And
we're looking forward to it.
I am a little, jealous that you're there and I'm sitting at home because Florida could not, even get remotely close there. I mean, they got to the NIT and they got embarrassed, but it is what it is.
Well, you could have always come to work for the Hoosier.com.
We'll work on that. Renegotiate my contract. Yeah,
that's it, buddy. You have a great weekend.
If I could do it remotely from Florida, that would be pretty good too.
Yeah, we'll see about that. You have a great weekend, my friend.
All right.
Big thanks to K-Bro. We thank him, appreciate him, love him, can't live without him. Also, big thanks to Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, and of course, Dane Fife, former Indiana player, coach, Sparty coach, and all around a good guy and friend of the show. And so looking forward to getting back to you guys on Monday with this show. We'll send out any social media posts for any post-game things that are going on. I'm going to get with Charlie Miller to see about that, or maybe just do some special shows while we're here to send out for you guys. But big thanks to each and every one of you. Thanks to RC for keeping us between the white lines today in place of John, who's on assignment. And that's going to wrap it up officially until Monday. But until then, make sure you catch everything tonight. I'm Jim Coyle for Kevin, RC. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Are we clear?
I don't know. I have not seen the end yet.
RC is frozen right now.
Yeah, I just ended it.